The last ride at the water park was a medium slide, my butt touch slide. That was good. But the pool was too short. I didn't even go in the pool. I hydroplaned across it. I went through the fence out into the parking lot. And I mean way out there, H-I-J. Please, God, let me stop. I crawl back up to the gate. They want me to pay to get in again. I said, listen, I'm in a Speedo. You see a wallet anywhere? He said, I don't even see the Speedo.
Good morning. It's Wednesday, Wasdin Wednesday, July the 19th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have Get Off the Air, No Free Lunch, The Rape of the Mind, Fox News, Representative Claudia Tinney, Alex-Epstein, Newsmax, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Part 2 of Chapter 5 of SEAL Team 6. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. And now there's no free lunch. 250 Economic Truths by david-bahnsen.
Farmer and manufacturer can no more live without profit than the laborer without wages. David Ricardo. It is a good thing that we do not look at the worker who demands to be paid for his work and decry him or her as greedy. But when we decry the business owner for pursuing profits, are we not doing the exact same thing? Profits are to the entrepreneur what wages are to the worker. Now, there are some who would say, allow the entrepreneur to profit, just not too much. Besides the obvious Phariseeism of this thought process, it also invites tyranny, subjectivity, disincentives, and distortions. Incomes are a noble thing, whether they be received by a worker or an owner and called profits.
And that was There's No Free Lunch by david-bahnsen. Back in a minute. Thank you. What are the true conservative cultural priorities? Bring back hierarchy. Bring back the admiration of intelligence, morality, and beauty. Bring back single-income households. Integration. Parenting. The primacy of existence. Certainty of knowledge, and universal rights and wrongs. Bring back principled behavior, masculinity and femininity. Bring back Adam 12, John F. Kennedy, the gold standard, pre-HMO medical care, and nonprofit news. Bring back civil service, the term stupid question, arguments and fights, the cultural influence of the church and the Boy Scouts. Bring back the influence of social organizations such as the Lions Club and the Rotary Club. Bring back bowling. Back in a minute. Thank you. So I'm listening to Buck and Cluck, or whatever their name is, on the EIB network, that the ones that took the place of Rush Limbaugh, and they're talking about rap music, and there was a particular tune that they said was disparaging of the police. And one guy says, I don't think that the government should be in the business of telling people what they can listen to. The problem with this statement is that it's socialist. The conservative way to have put it is to say it is wrong for the government to tell people what it is that they should listen to because it violates the First Amendment. So that's what they need to say. They need to say this is wrong. If they're afraid to say what's wrong, or they don't know what's wrong or what's right, then they need to get off the air. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Senator John Kennedy on Fox News.
And here's my point of view right now, for what it's worth. Have you ever flushed the toilet and the water starts rising? You go, dang, I got a problem here, and I think that's where the Attorney General is. He thought he had finessed the prosecution of Mr. Hunter Biden. He had palmed it off on another prosecutor. Plea deal was reached, pretty favorable to Mr. Hunter Biden. He just didn't count on the whistleblowers. And I've listened to these whistleblowers. They sound pretty credible. I want to be fair and just say, objectively speaking, the only thing clear right now is somebody's lying. And the Attorney General is going to have to address this. There is a perception that Mr. Hunter Biden got special treatment. Some would argue that Mr. Hunter Biden has gotten special treatment his entire life. But what's different now is Dad is the President of the United States and purports to stand for the rule of law.
And that was Senator John Kennedy on Fox News. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, the rape of the mind.
The lie detector. Hypnotism and narcoanalysis are only two of the current devices that can be used as instruments of enforced intrusion into the mind. The lie detector, which has already been used as a tool for mental intimidation, is another. This apparatus, useful for psychobiological experimentation, can indicate, through writing down meticulously the changes in the psychogalvanic reflex, that the human guinea pig under investigation reacts more emotionally to certain questions than to others. True, this overreaction may be the reaction to having told a lie, but it may also be an innocent person's reaction to the emotion-laden situation or even to an increased fear of unjust accusation. The interpersonal processes between interrogator and testee have just as much influence on the emotional reactions and changes in the galvanic reflex as feelings of inner guilt and confession. This experiment only indicates inner turmoil and hidden repressions, with all their doubt and ambiguities. It is not, in fact, a lie detector, although it is used as such. D. MacDonald. As a matter of fact, the pathological liar and the psychopathic conscienceless personality may show less reaction to this experiment than normal people do. The lie detector is more likely to become a tool of coercion in the hands of men who look more for a powerful magic in every instrument than a means of getting at the truth. As a result, even the innocent can be fooled into false confession.
And that was The Lie Detector from The Rape of the Mind by Joost-meerlo, OMD. Thank you. And now, New York Republican Representative Claudia Tinney.
The FBI is dirty, Merrick Garland is a dirty cop, and he needs to be impeached and removed from office, and the Republicans need to do that.
And that was Representative Claudia Tinney on Fox News. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Alex Epstein.
But the other thing is with cell phones, you do have something where it is a superior replacement for a lot of telephony and communications. Like, we are actively choosing these things because they're good. But this is not the case for solar and wind. We are not actively choosing them because they're radically superior in some way. Their adoption very directly correlates with us being forced to use them, whether by an outright mandate or via subsidy or via, I talk about this in the book, our electricity policy will allow you to charge the same for unreliable electricity and reliable electricity. So the whole grid and energy system is rigged toward unreliable solar and wind because it's intermittent. That's why I say it's unreliable. And so it's not, and what we see is, take Europe, which we are trying to aggressively emulate. You know, what they did is they said, hey, we don't need fossil fuels. So they saw fracking and they're like, hey, let's ban that. You know, this thing that's revolutionizing the US, let's ban that. Let's not import energy from free countries. Let's just use solar and wind. But it didn't work. And so what happened is they are dangerously dependent on Russia, as we're seeing right now. So what you don't want, this is like an indulgence, a very harmful indulgence of the rich world. That's the last thing poor countries want to do, or should want to do, which is why you look at China and India, the places that are actually lifting themselves out of poverty. They are overwhelmingly using fossil fuels, including, comically in China's case, using huge amounts of coal to produce unreliable solar panels and wind turbines that we buy from them and then call it energy independence.
And that was Alex Epstein. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Vivek Ramaswamy.
I'm 37 years old. I was born in 1985. I speak as a member of my generation. We today are hungry for a purpose. The American dream is about a conviction in your agency as an individual, a belief that you are more than the tectonic plates of group identity that move you, the genetics that brought you into this world. To get ahead through hard work, that hardship is not the same thing as victimhood, that there is more to life than self-indulgence, that we have much to do in the short time we have been given. That is the American dream. Those are the values that brought my parents to this country and that they instilled in us today. And I believe we can make these sacrifices. We can rise to that occasion if we really answer that question of who we are as Americans.
And that was Vivek Ramaswamy. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, Newsmax.
Good morning. Welcome back into Wake Up America. So now we're just a month away from the first presidential debate, August the 23rd. We've also got a possible third indictment looming over the former president. We just learned about that. Do we start to see the race for the White House shift in any real way? For more on the latest, let's welcome in former Pennsylvania Senator and senior Newsmax political contributor Rick Santorum, also a 2012 presidential candidate. Senator, good to see you. Good to have you back.
Good, Rob. Good to be with you again.
What's the latest?
Well, another indictment. How about that? And maybe more to come. We've talked about this repeatedly, Rob, that the more the left goes after Trump, the stronger he gets within his core base of the Republican Party. You've seen it with his fundraising numbers, his grassroots fundraising numbers jumped off the charts when the other indictments came down. My guess is this will be the case, it may be even particularly because it's related to January 6th. Having said that, I've also talked about potentially the long-term problem that this has for Trump with particularly independent voters in a general election. And this, I think, is potentially the most dangerous area. Again, I haven't seen the indictment, don't know what they're going to say, don't know how ridiculous the charges may be. And if the charges are like Alvin Bragg's charges in New York, which are just, sort of off the wall and blatantly political, then I think, that could actually help Trump, maybe even among moderates. But depending on what the charges are, this could be damaging to him in the general election because, again, sort of tying him to the riots or gathering at the Capitol on January 6th is not a positive thing for Donald Trump. It was not a good thing for his presidency. It was not a good thing for his image among other than the base Republicans, and that could be a problem for him in the general.
Yeah. Worst day of his presidency. I think you could make that argument, but I don't know if you can directly. The House tried to do this when they impeached him. I don't know if you can draw a straight line to what happened and Donald Trump. That legally seems murky to me.
I agree. Again, I always wait until you see what.
Yeah, let's see what unfolds here. I do find the timing fascinating, Senator. This happened June 9th with the Mar-a-Lago documents. We've got whistleblowers testifying on Capitol Hill before the Oversight Committee, and wouldn't you know it, another pesky Trump indictment comes down, and it's happening again this week, and we've got two whistleblowers about to testify in a couple hours on Capitol Hill. What do you make of the timing?
One of the things I don't want to read too much into that, only because prosecutors generally, walk through these cases
But these prosecutors, it just seems darn political, doesn't it?
They are, but if you look on Capitol Hill, there's sort of plenty going on there when it comes to Trump and what the sort of the dynamic around Trump. The one thing you can always count on Trump is he's always in the news, and
yes.
So to say, well, there was news about Trump going on or Biden going on. There's always news about Trump and Biden going on. So I don't pay much attention to that. I just think the reality is that they're bringing charges. I look at it, and as you said, it's hard to not only is it hard to draw a straight line, it's hard to look at what Trump said and say that it's any different in kind than any other political speech in the verbiage he uses.
Good point.
And this is verbiage that is used by I've used. We got to fight. We got to take them on. We got to stop them. This is typical political. You can say puffery or verbiage. But it certainly isn't inciting to violence, and that's where I think, again, looking at the charges, maybe the best thing Trump has going for him is that they don't really have a solid case.
Senator, quickly, we spent so much time talking about Donald Trump. We rarely talk about Joe Biden. This is Joe Biden yesterday with the Israeli president in the White House. Just take a look at this, and then I want to get your reaction.
We opened up an airspace for Israel and over Saudi Arabia and Oman after I had a little visit there. And we brought Israelis and Palestinians together at a political level and Aqaba and Al-Shram.
What is... He literally looks like he's dozing off.
He looks like he's falling asleep. You and I have talked about this, Rob. We'll continue to talk about it. I just can't imagine that this man is going to make it to the general election. And I don't mean he's going to die. I'm just saying that I think he's dying politically right now. And performances like this,
clearly,
what happened over in Europe, this is not going to happen within the Democratic donor base and base.
I agree with you, Senator. We'll leave it there.
And that was guest former Senator Rick Santorum on Newsmax. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, part 2 of Chapter 5 of SEAL Team 6 by Howard Wasdin.
We ran a mile one way just to eat a meal. Round trip multiplied by 3 meals made for 6 miles a day just to eat. We never seemed to have enough time to recover before the next evolution hit us. On top of everything, the instructors poured on the stress with verbal harassment. Most of them didn't need to raise their voices to tell us, Grandma was slow, but she was old. Each one of us seemed to have an Achilles heel, and the instructors excelled at finding it. The hardest evolutions for me were the 4-mile timed runs on the beach wearing long pants and jungle boots. I dreaded them. Soft sand sucked the energy out of my legs, and waves attacked me when I tried to run on the hard pack. Some guys ran out in front, some stayed in the middle, and others like me brought up the rear. Almost every time, at the 2-mile marker at the North Island fence, an instructor would say, Wasdin, you're getting behind. You're going to have to kick it on the way back. With each run, the time demands became tougher. I failed one 4-minute mile timed run by seconds. While everyone else went back to the barracks, the 4 or 5 others who also failed joined me to form a goon squad. After having spent nearly everything I had on the run, I knew this was going to suck. We ran sprints up and down the sand berm, jumped into the cold water, then rolled up and down the sand berm until our wet bodies looked like sugar cookies. The sand found its way into my eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. We did squat thrusts, 8-count bodybuilders, and all manner of acrobatic tortures until the sand rubbed our wet skin raw and nearly every muscle in our bodies broke down. It was my first goon squad, and the only one I ever needed. I may die on the next timed run, but I ain't doing this crap again. There was one guy who swam like a fish but ended up in goon squad time and time again for not keeping up on the runs. I wondered how he ever survived all the goon squads. In first phase, one thing sucked more than the 4-mile timed runs. Hell Week. The ultimate in train the best, discard the rest. It began late Sunday night with what is called breakout. M60 machine guns blasted the air. We crawled out of the barracks as an instructor screamed, "Move, move, move!" Outside on the grinder, an asphalt-covered area the size of a small parking lot, artillery simulators exploded. An incoming shriek followed by a boom. M60s continued to rattle. A machine pumped a blanket of fog over the area. Green chem lights, glow sticks decorated the outer perimeter. Water hoses sprayed us. The smell of cordite hung in the air. Over the loudspeakers blasted AC/DC's Highway to Hell. Terror covered the faces of many guys. Their eyes looked like 2 fried eggs. Only minutes into it, the bell started ringing. People quit. You can't be serious. What the hell's wrong? Yeah, instructors are running around shooting off machine guns and everything, but no one has smacked me in the face or beat me with a belt yet. I couldn't comprehend why people were quitting already. Of course, my tough childhood had prepared me for this moment, more than physically. I knew that mentally I had mastered pain and hard work, and I knew I could master more. My father's expectations for high performance from me produced my own expectations for high performance. In my mind, I strongly believed I wouldn't quit. I didn't need to express my belief in words. Talk is cheap. My belief was real. Without such a strong belief, a tadpole has already guaranteed his failure. One legendary Hell Week event occurs on a steel pier where the Navy docks its small boats. We took off our boots and stuffed our socks and belts in them. My fingers were so numb and shaky that I had a tough time taking off my boots. Wearing our olive drab green uniforms, we jumped into the bay with no life jackets, shoes, or socks. I immediately laid out in a dead man's float while I undid the fly on my trousers. Still in a dead man's float, when I needed air, I'd bring my face out of the freezing water and take a quick bite of oxygen, then resume my position face down in the water. When I started to sink too much, I kicked a couple of strokes. Meanwhile, I pulled off my trousers. Then I zipped the fly shut. With my trousers off, I tied the ends of the legs together with a square knot. Then, using both hands, I grabbed hold of the waist and kicked until my body straightened up from its float. I lifted my pants high in the air, then slammed them forward and down on the water, trapping air in the trouser legs. As my upper body hung over the valley in the V of my homemade trouser flotation device, I felt relief. I had been so concerned about drowning that I had forgotten how frigid the water felt. Now that I wasn't drowning, I started to remember the cold. Some of our guys swam back to the pier. We tried to call them back, but they'd had enough. Ring, ring, ring. Instructor Stoneclam said, "If one more of you rings the bell, the rest of you can come out of the water too. Inside the ambulance, we have warm blankets and a thermos of hot coffee." After one more ring of the bell, Stoneclam said, "Everybody out of the water." "Hoo-yah!" We crawled out of the water and onto the floating steel pier. Instructor Stoneclam said, "Now strip down to your undershorts and lie down on the pier. If you don't have shorts, your birthday suit is even better." I stripped down to my birthday suit and lay down. The instructors had prepared the pier by spraying it down with water. Mother Nature had prepared the pier by blowing cool wind across it. I felt like I was lying down on a block of ice. Then the instructors sprayed us with cold water. Our muscles contracted wildly. The spasms were uncontrollable. We flapped around on the steel deck like fish out of water. The instructors took us to the early stages of hypothermia. I would have done almost anything to get warm. Mike said, "Sorry, man, I gotta pee." "It's okay, man, pee here." He urinated on my hands. "Oh, thanks, buddy." The warmth felt so good. Most people think it's just gross. They've obviously never been really cold. Wednesday night, halfway through Hell Week, was the one time I thought about quitting. The instructors wasted no time beginning Lion's Lope, named after a Vietnam SEAL. We paddled our black inflatable boat about 250 yards out to pylons in San Diego Bay, turned the boat upside down, then right side up, called Dump Boat, paddled back to shore, ran half a mile on land carrying only our paddles, tossed our paddles into the back of a truck, sat in the bay to form a human centipede, hand paddled 400 yards, ran 600 yards, grabbed our paddles and used them to centipede paddle 400 yards, grabbed our boats and boat paddled out to the pylons, then back to shore. We all had stage 2 hypothermia. Stage 1 is mild to strong shivering with numbness in the hands. Most people have experienced this level of hypothermia. Stage 2 is violent shivering with mild confusion and stumbling. In stage 3, the core body temperature drops below 90 degrees, shivering stops, and a person becomes a babbling, bumbling idiot. There is no stage 4, only death. The instructors calculated air and water temperatures along with how long we stayed in the water in order to make us as cold as possible without causing permanent damage or killing us. It was standing room only at the bell. My classmates rang it like Coronado was on fire. The instructors had backed up ambulances and opened the doors. Inside sat my former classmates wrapped up in wool blankets drinking hot chocolate. Instructor Stoneclam said, "Come here, Wasdin. You're married, aren't you?" "Yes, Instructor Stoneclam." My muscles felt too exhausted to move, but they shivered violently anyway. "You don't need this. Come here." He walked me to the backs of the ambulances so I could feel their warm air hit me in the face. "Have a cup of this hot chocolate." I held it in my hand. It was warm. "If we'd wanted you to have a wife, we would have issued you one," he explained. "Go over there and ring that damn bell. Get this over. I'll let you drink that hot chocolate, put you in this warm ambulance, wrap you up in a thick blanket, and you don't have to put up with this anymore." I looked over at the bell. It would be that easy. All I have to do is pull that mother 3 times. I thought about the heated ambulances with blankets and hot chocolate. Then I caught myself. Wait a minute, I'm not thinking clearly. That's quitting. "Hoo-yah, Instructor Stoneclam." I gave him back his hot chocolate. "Get back with your class." Handing him back that cup of hot chocolate was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Let me go back and freeze while I get my nuts kicked some more. Mike H. and I had a 6-man boat crew before the other 4 quit. Now, it was only the 2 of us struggling to drag our boat weighing nearly 200 pounds back to the Buds compound, instructors yelling at us for being too slow. We cussed at the quitters. "You sorry pieces of crap." When Mike and I arrived at the compound, we were still angry. Mike and I had gone from being their comrades to cussing them out for abandoning us. It's why the training is so brutal. To find out who has your back when all hell breaks loose. After Wednesday night, I don't remember anyone else quitting. Early Thursday morning, I sat in the chow hall. They're going to have to kill me. After everything I've been through, they're going to have to cut me up in little pieces and mail me back to Wayne County, Georgia, because I'm not quitting now. Inside me, something clicked. It no longer mattered what we did next. I didn't care. This has got to end sometime. Deprived of support in our environment and the support of our own bodies, the only thing propping us up was our belief in accomplishing the mission. Complete Hell Week. In psychology, this belief is called self-efficacy. Even when the mission seems impossible, it is the strength of our belief that makes success possible. The absence of this belief guarantees failure. A strong belief in the mission fuels our ability to focus, put forth effort, and persist. Believing allows us to see the goal, complete Hell Week, and break the goal down into more manageable objectives, one evolution at a time. If the evolution is a boat race, it can be broken down into even smaller objectives, such as paddling. Believing allows us to seek out strategies to accomplish the objectives, such as using the larger shoulder muscles to paddle rather than the smaller forearm muscles. Then, when the race is done, move on to the next evolution. Thinking too much about what happened and what is about to happen will wear you down. Live in the moment and take it one step at a time. Thursday night, we'd only had 3 to 4 hours total sleep since Sunday evening. The dream world started to mix with the real world and we hallucinated. In the chow hall, while guys' heads were bobbing in and out of their food and their eyes were rolling back in their heads from sleep deprivation, an instructor said, "You know, Wasdin, I want you to take this butter knife, go over there and kill that deer in the corner." Slowly rising from my oatmeal daze, I looked over and sure as hell, there was a buck standing in the chow hall. It didn't dawn on me why the deer was in the chow hall or how it got there. Now I'm on a mission. I stalked up on it with my Rambo knife and got ready to make my death leap. Instructor Stoneclam yelled, "Wasdin, what are you doing?" "Getting ready to kill this buck, Instructor Stoneclam." "Look, that's a tray table. It's what they haul trays in and out of the kitchen with." "What the? How did it turn into a tray table?" "Just sit your dumb ass down and finish eating," Instructor Stoneclam said. The instructors had a big laugh about it. Later, Mike H., Bobby H., and the rest of our crew paddled from the Naval Special Warfare Center south to Silver Strand State Park. It felt like we were paddling to Mexico, but the trip was only 6 miles. Paddle, fall asleep, paddle, fall asleep. Suddenly, Bobby banged the bottom of the boat, yelling, "Ah! What the hell?" I asked. "Big snake!" Bobby yelled. We helped him kill the snake. "Snake!" One guy stopped. "That's the bow line." We were beating the rope that's used to secure the front of the boat. We all looked at the rope and returned to our senses. 5 minutes later, Mike yelled, "Ah! Is the snake back?" I asked. Lights from the city glowed in the sky. "I just saw my dad's face in the clouds," Mike said. I looked up. Sure enough, I saw his dad's face in the clouds. I'd never met his dad and didn't know what his dad looked like, but I saw Mike's dad's face in the clouds. Another guy in our class, Randy Clendenning, was bald. Everywhere. Head, eyebrows, eyelashes, armpits, nutsack, like a snake. As a child, he ate some red berries and had a fever so high that it killed all his hair follicles. When he made it to SEAL Team 2, someone called him Chemo, short for chemotherapy. The nickname stuck. During Hell Week, Randy wheezed and sputtered. "You okay, Randy?" I asked. "The instructors just told me I had a dirty carburetor." "Wow, that must suck to have a dirty carburetor." It hadn't occurred to me that Randy had fluid in his lungs. The instructors discussed rolling him back to another class so he could recover, but that would mean doing Hell Week again. And we were so close to finishing. On Friday, the instructors took us out into the surf zone. We sat in the frigid ocean facing the sea with our arms linked, trying to stay together. Instructor Stoneclam stood on the beach talking to our backs. "This is the sorriest class we've ever seen. You couldn't even keep the officers in your class." Officers and enlisted men undergo the same training together. "You didn't support them. You didn't back them up. It's your fault you don't have any officers left. This last evolution, you had the slowest time in history. We have just received permission from Captain Bailey to extend Hell Week one more day."
And that was part 2 of Chapter 5 from SEAL Team 6. Back in a minute. Thank you. I'm Ron, your host and the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all of the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. And until next time, be honest, be smart, be beautiful, and remember that the left has no authority, no power, and they can't win.